Welcome to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. I'm your host, Johnny Mango. This is the place where we inquire about lifestyle, culture, and careers. Weekly, we meet with new guests that make a contribution of their insightful stories about their careers and how those careers impact their lifestyle and culture. Hello, everybody. This is Johnny, and welcome to Minutes with Mango. We got an interesting guest today. I think I might learn a few lessons from her myself. She is a transformational mentor, speaker, founder of Glow Up Collective. That's GLOW, Glow Up Collective, where she helps women who have lost themselves reconnect with their confidence, beauty, boundaries, pleasure, and power. Her work blends deep inner healing with real life transformation, helping women become more sovereign, regulated, peaceful, and fully expressed in their lives and relationships. I'm really looking forward to this and create tangible change in how they feel, show up, and live. Her work is especially powerful for women navigating identity loss, burnout, and body image struggles. So, without any further ado, please welcome Lindsay Jacobi. Hello, Lindsay.
Hi, Johnny. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for sharing all that.
So, Lindsay, the way we always like to start out here at Minutes with Mango is to give you a little bit of time to tell us about yourself and how you ended up doing what you're doing.
Sure. So I started actually as an entrepreneur in the education space. So I started a private school in New Jersey, and yeah, that was my first entrepreneurial endeavor. I was a young mom of three and business owner. So I experienced all of what I now coach on. Lots of burnout. I was trying to be all the things to all the people, a founder, a mom, a wife. And I just found myself looking around. I was successful on paper, but I was really lost with myself and who I was. I had set my health aside. I had set a lot of my life on the back burner to serve everyone else's needs. And that is how I started doing this coaching, was when I found myself again, sort of through that journey and that process. And now I work with women to do the same.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think the first big question I have for you is, what is the glow up experience? What you're the glow up?
Yeah, the glow up. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a huge I chose that word because when I had that transformational experience myself, it was what everyone was saying to me.
Oh,
Wow, you are glowing. You are glowing. You are glowing. So it was when I did this work myself. So the work that I do, the experience is we start with a 90-day container and we go through and we diagnose all of the areas that you're leaking energy. So women can be leaking energy in their boundaries, with their in their work, in their with their kids, with their spouse, with their parents even. And we diagnose where the energy leaks are, and then we start building systems to create new patterns and new habits around the places where she's leaking energy.
so that's the glow up. So you end up with a glow.
You end up glowing from the inside out. And
Yeah.
honestly, a lot of women come to me for beauty and they find, beauty, weight loss, things like that. And it is part of the transformation, and it comes from the inside out as well. It's like the whole inside and outside transformation.
Absolutely. I imagine there are a lot of people that think it's on the outside, but it's really on the inside, and then
Mm.
that's the magic of life. I've learned over the years. Anyway, so I think since I'm a guy and we're talking about women's issues, help me understand some of the bigger signs a woman has. Become disconnected from herself because I've read that in some of your literature that
Yeah.
women get disconnected. So can we talk about that? Can you explain
Sure.
that and how that happens to women? And
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's really amazing as a man to be interested and to be looking out for this. I mean, I know that there's a lot of men out there that have been maybe married for a long time and are looking at their wife being like, what happened to that vibrant, sexy, fun person that I married? And, and it is, and it happens. And I think that as a man, it's so powerful to know that's a symptom, that losing that vibrance, losing that spark, that joy, that energy is the indication that she's becoming disconnected from herself. So, for women, if you're feeling tired, you're feeling like you don't enjoy the things that you used to enjoy in your life, you don't have desire to be intimate with your husband, you get snippy with your kids, or other people in your life, whoever you're caring for, if you're short, that's a sign that you're out of alignment and you've lost touch with your true self and your true purpose.
So how does one, and I can relate to that. Me and Mrs. Mango have been together for many, many years. And, I think with kids, going through kids and all kinds of different things, serious health issues at different times of our span of life, how does one get disconnected to begin with? What causes that disconnection?
That is a great question. Most of the time for women, self abandonment. So we learn that we have a certain way that we should show up in the world for others. Culturally, we are programmed to believe that we should be not self-serving, so we should martyr ourselves to others. And that what happens a lot of times is we people please. So we say yes when we really want to say no. We do things for people that we overextend ourselves for others and do not take any time to really check in with what's going on for me right now. And do I even have
Yeah.
the capacity to hold some space for someone else's stuff, in that. And that's where we start to see some of that light dimming.
Yeah. Yeah. I know and it's been years, but I remember when our kids were toddlers. Our kids are about 3 years apart. We have 2 boys, and I remember Mrs. Mingo coming to me going, "I can't deal with this." And I go, "What the hell are you talking about? You can't deal with this. What's the big deal?" And it was like, "Well, you don't understand that I'm home all day and I've got these kids and they're making messes and I gotta clean the house and I got this and I got that." And it all of a sudden hit me that I was in a different world. It was hard for me, and at that time, I was working outside the home, so I was out and about all the time, and I'd come home, and it's, "Hi, honey, I'm home. What's for dinner?" And
Yeah.
and it would be like anyway,
Mhm.
well, so they become disconnected in life, I guess, just disconnected from themselves, and they're fighting so much outside themselves. Is that what it is? They're trying to please, they're trying to
Yeah.
get all these things done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's following the shoulds. So it's like, you live your life based off of what you think you should do or should want, or maybe what other people have told you your life should look like. And a lot of times it's like we never ever actually checked in on, like, how does this align for me? And is really providing my best self to my family. Like, if I think my kids should do 6 sports, but I'm not checking in with me about, like, where is this in the schedule? Is there time for me if I sign my kids up for 6 sports? You're doing what you think you should do because maybe you're trying to keep up with the neighbors, or your husband thinks like, "Well, my kids should do all the things," and you're not honoring, like, your own personal
Right.
needs.
I know my wife and I had a discussion about our kids playing football, and she was really against it. I was for it, and then she pointed out the reasons why, and I thought, well, okay. And then we kind of raised our kids from the standpoint of let's see where their interests lie, and we'll support them whatever those interests are. And their interest was not in football. Let me tell you, mine was, but not theirs. So it was easy to work through that. Well, so what usually keeps a woman stuck? So they lose themselves, and then how do they stay stuck in that? They may want to change, but how do they get stuck?
Yeah, that's such a great question too. It's the patterns. So you get into a pattern of life, which is, like I mentioned before, this people pleasing. So you get into the pattern of saying yes. So it's the gut reaction that happens when somebody asks you and you're afraid. So it's a pattern of fear of disappointing others. And those patterns, if we don't stop it, if we don't get in front of the pattern and break the pattern, we stay stuck in the pattern. If we don't start looking at the patterns and saying, where am I saying yes? Where am I doing something that's for someone else and not for me? They will continue to repeat that pattern and it will just continue to grow. I use the term we train people how to treat us. So if everyone has learned that you're the person that's going to solve all the problems and do all the things, they're just going to keep pouring more on you until you're
Right.
completely depleted and your health suffers then. Autoimmune disease is huge in um, women as we age and go through perimenopause and menopause. We see autoimmune pop up because we've depleted ourselves so thoroughly that and we can't say no and we can't stop. So instead of being able to say no, our bodies shut down and force us to stop.
So so it's kind of like, kinda like running a giant marathon that's constantly going, and you get yourself into that mode. Even though life goes through a series of changes over 10, 20, 30 years, what I'm hearing from you is it's possible to get stuck in that mode and really lose yourself. Even though it started out, let's say, as an example, changing diapers, but, now graduation has come and the kids have left the house and we're still in that running around trying to deal with other people and be nicey nice.
Yeah, I mean, then that example, like I can tell you, so that how it starts is and I love to see women in different transitions in life. So, like when they first have a baby, right? When you think that you have to do it all. So, that
Yeah.
example of the diapers, it's like if I'm like, you know what, he doesn't do it right. So, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do the laundry. He can't do it. He can't cook the food. And then we go and we do it instead of allowing him to do it his way and maybe, saying, hey, I noticed that you didn't do it exactly this way. And giving others permission to do things their way, but to also support us. That will translate the diaper changing, you not letting him do the diaper changes will then translate to at graduation. He's still not taking over any of the child's care things or on the responsibilities because he's learned he can't do it right anyway. So why even bother? She's going to do it. She's going to do it
Yeah.
her way. But then if everything will fall on you forever.
So, what comes to mind, my in-laws, my father-in-law, he's passed away years ago, but my father-in-law was really a wonderful guy, but he was one of those males in the relationship that couldn't even make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, okay?
Exactly.
So whenever his wife, my mother-in-law, had to go away for a couple days or something, she would set up all the provisions in the refrigerator, so all he had to do was put them in the microwave or do whatever, right? It was all set for him. Well, I know how to cook, okay? And I can more than take care of myself. But you know what? Even to this day, after many, many years of marriage, if my wife is having to make a trip and I'm at home by myself, it's like, I went and got you these things that would be easy to cook. And I'm going, you didn't have to do that. I can do that. But that is, I guess what I'm saying is we pick up certain habits along the way from just our general life experience that can have a compound effect. When my wife says she's going to make a trip, I go, okay, I can go shopping for myself and I can go get all I want. Then all of a sudden she shows up with everything I want to eat. I'm
Yeah.
going to eat. And I'm going, well, I wasn't going to eat that. Y
Yeah,
you know
and that's
you know
part
what
of
I'm saying?
it,
Yeah.
100%, and honestly, what I think is very so perfect about that example is a lot of times us women think we're anticipating someone else's needs and we're jumping in to fix when the person never actually asked for the help.
Right.
And sometimes they don't even want it. So it's like we think we have to do this and people don't even necessarily want it. It's like we go into fix it mode and it's not no one's asking and it's always like saying like why am I doing this for this person? Like
Right.
did they ask me for this help? Do they really need me to do this? Is this something, that if I don't, what's going to happen if I don't go buy the food for him before I
Right.
leave for my trip?
How does one break free from that? Is it about boundaries? What is it? What is it that helps someone break free of that need to please, that to a point where they lose themselves?
It comes down to intuition. So listening to your intuition, if something doesn't feel right,
Yeah,
pausing. So, I talked about the pattern. A pattern interrupt can start as simple as pausing before you answer. So if someone asks you to do something or going away on a trip and thinking about all the things you have to do before your trip, pausing and really listening to yourself. This is something that we don't do enough. Nobody does enough is listening to really truly like what's coming up for you.
yeah,
Like I if so for example, you're going away on a trip and you're going to prepare for your whole family, listening to the inside voice of like what feels overwhelming about getting
right,
everyone prepared and then saying, what do I really have to do?
right,
And listening to the inner guidance of, you know what? Maybe I don't have to do 10 things. Maybe I'll feel really good if I know that 2 of these 10 things are done before I leave, but the other 4, 5, or 6 or 7, they'll they'll figure it out. They'll handle it. And that pause is the beginning, and then the action of taking the 7 things you don't actually have to do off your
yeah.
plate is the transformation.
So then you can create a gap for your own life, to live your own life instead of running around doing it for everybody else.
Yes. So when you take those 7 things off, you now have an
Yeah.
extra 10 hours in your week to do something that you need to do,
Right,
which is like,
right,
maybe you wanna go get your hair done before your trip, or you
right.
wanna, buy a
Yeah,
new outfit, and you have the time to do that because you're not spending all of your time on everyone else.
right. What about abandonment? How does
Mhm.
abandonment play into this?
Yeah, so I use the term self-abandonment a lot because that's anytime you're overriding your own comfort for someone else. So, in my experience, I had a very codependent relationship with my parents, and
Uh,
my father would make me so uncomfortable, and instead of speaking out and saying, "Hey, that's making me uncomfortable," I would be so afraid to make him uncomfortable that I would accept my own discomfort over his discomfort. So I was putting his comfort before my own. And that is the definition of self-abandonment.
really?
I'm making someone else, their comfort, their life, their importance more important than my own needs and my own comfort.
Never heard it defined that way. That's very interesting. So abandonment is putting basically, you're talking about self-abandonment. So
Mhm.
that goes back to putting other people first rather than myself first so that I can serve others. If I don't put myself first, I can't serve others, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how we lose ourselves, and that's
Mhm.
abandonment. So we're because I think sometimes people think in terms of abandonment that people went away from them or they've been, out there, but what I'm hearing you say is, "No, this is about you and yourself, and if you go overboard putting everybody else first, you're abandoning yourself."
Yeah, yeah, and then it's not, and I'm not saying, "Hey, don't ever do anything for anyone else," but your comfort and your life and the way that you show up really matters, and if you're putting other people's comfort or whatever the thing is in that day before your own needs, that's really self-abandonment. So it's putting others' needs higher than your own needs
Yeah,
and your own, you know, being able to show up and be calm and present and all of these things. You
right,
can't do that if you don't put your own needs honestly above other
right.
people's needs.
Yeah, wow, okay. It's good info right there for everybody,
For
even
every
for,
for men too. This
yeah,
applies to
absolutely.
men too. It's not all
Yeah,
about, self-abandonment happens,
yeah.
for men too. It happens.
Yes, dear, even though I don't wanna do it. Well, let's talk a little bit about how you help women get through this. Let's talk about you for a minute and what you really do now that you've
Yeah.
described it.
Sure, sure. So, like I said, my program it starts with 90 days and they go through this process of diagnosing all of the things, the energy leaks. And I work with women. So I do calls similar to like this, one-on-one. And we really dig into the area, like what is feeling most unwell in your life. So we say like dis-ease isn't necessarily about sickness, it's a dis-ease. So you're not at ease in an area of your life. And then we tackle the area that you feel most with the most unease in your life. And just like I said before about its boundaries, it can be recognizing patterns, talking through patterns. And they have access to me using an app called Voxer. So they can in real time, like, hey, I just lost my you know what on my kids and I don't
Right.
know why and I'm feeling really bad about it. And then we can talk about like, well, what happened? Like what led up to you losing your stuff on your kids? And we can walk through the day and then she can recognize, you know what? I didn't make time to sit down and eat lunch. I was hungry. I slept terribly, and we can talk
Yeah.
through recognizing that she didn't give herself any permission that day to like take a step back and ask for help. And she was overwhelmed, overextended. And then we start building in systems for her. And sometimes it's scripts, it's conversations, it's how do I ask my husband to do a load of laundry in the morning so that it
Yeah.
can be something simple as that.
Yeah. I know how to do the laundry. I know how to clean the bathroom too.
Look at you.
Not my favorite thing to do, but what about, I think there's another piece to this that I'd like to hear from you on, and that is when a woman feels that she is meant to be doing more, okay? I really like to do this. I would really like to be I'm gonna just make this up. I'd like to be an artist, and I'm not. I'd like to travel. I'd like to do these things.
Mm,
But they feel guilty about it.
mm.
Okay. We're getting into the guilt department here. Okay. What can one do to choose themselves when they're feeling guilty?
This is a big one. This is a
Is it?
big one. Yeah, because there's a self love and self worth piece here.
Right.
So if you're feeling guilty for choosing to do something that really brings you joy and really lights you up, it's first of all, it's telling me that you don't value yourself enough to honor your own pleasure, your own joy. And
Right.
two, it tells me the guilt. This is you still putting other people's comfort before you. Because for you to feel guilty about pursuing something that's really on your heart, you're putting the other, like whether it's your family, your kids, your aging parents, whatever it is, you're putting them before what's really meant for you
Right.
and your soul. And
Yeah.
what's even more important about that is when you don't go pursue that thing that really lights you up and brings you joy and makes you this lit up version of yourself, they suffer. So you think you're doing what's best for them because you're sacrificing yourself, but the people around you suffer because they see you depleted, they see you angry, they see you resentful.
Yeah.
So you're actually not doing anyone any favors by feeling guilty and not going and pursuing your dreams.
Right, right. Another thing I've observed this is my own general observation, and I've noticed that when couples get divorced, the men go out, look for the new relationship, and the women tend to I'm generalizing here, but women tend to put their personal life on hold and go through. I mean, I have one friend that went 20 years between husbands. I have another friend who's on about the 16th year. I have another friend. I can list them off, and their husbands have kind of moved on, and I'm kind of curious about that. Do you have any insight on that?
I mean, if I were to say from my experience, it can be the same vein that we've been talking about,
Yeah,
where she spent so many years sacrificing for a man because in a lot of relationships that is the dynamic. The woman will give a lot and feel resentful and feel angry and feel depleted, to her jumping back into another relationship where she's going to be self-sacrificing is not appealing. It's
yeah,
like, I'd rather be alone and just get to fill up my own cup.
yeah. I think you're right. I think that I think this might be systemic in relationships a lot of times that, I'm no relationship expert by any means. But as I look back on these couple of friends I just told you about and why, two of them were like, if I had another guy like that, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, just to generalize a little bit. And so what they're really doing, I guess, is setting up their own boundaries. They're setting up the boundary of I'm going to protect myself. I'm taking care of myself.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
what I think is really important to just to mention here is I really believe in women being able to save marriages sometimes because when they work on themselves. So
Yeah.
not save the marriage because you can fix him, but saving the marriage because you're working on yourself and you're showing up differently in the marriage.
Yeah.
And that actually changes the way he's able to show up for you.
Yeah.
So, I think I see, of course, the divorce rate is so, so high.
Yeah.
And when I'm working with a client who's having issues in their marriage, I really believe in helping her to work on herself. So it's like, listen, if you work on yourself and you become the very best version of yourself and you're showing up as the best version and he still can't rise to meet you, then we can talk about divorce. But
Yeah.
what I find is it's like, well, he's so this, he's so that. And it's like, okay, well, don't focus on him. Focus on you. What are you doing? How are you showing up? How are you
Right.
asking? What are you know, guys don't know a lot of times what women needs. Like
Yeah.
we expect them to be mind readers and then wonder why he's not, doing the laundry. Why,
Right.
what, but
Yeah.
men are not mind readers and they're not very intuitive, which is
Yeah.
actually totally normal. Men are
Yeah.
not created as intuitive as women. And we get mad about that.
Yeah, I once one of those friends I once asked her, I said, "When did you lose the desire for your husband?" And what really surprised me, because I have 2 or 3 kids, and her answer was, "After my firstborn." And I went, "Wow." And I didn't wanna get into it. I stopped right there. I'm not going there.
Yeah.
But that was really surprising to me that, as we've talked about this today, I can see these things in behaviors of people that I know that without those boundaries, you're and I think this backs up to our the world that we're living in now versus the world we lived in 150 years ago.
Mhm.
150 years ago, we lived out on the prairie or someplace. You know, as the husband, I'd go out and find the food. And as the wife, you would tend to the children and you'd be cooking all day because it took all day to stoke the stove and bring in the firewood and do all the things. So it was more of a team. I think it was more of a team atmosphere. In today's world, it's more singular.
Mm.
I have a job, she has a job. We've got kids. They're on autopilot sometimes because we're both running around. And I think the old concept is still there. What's the percentage of time that women make dinner for the household, as an example?
Mm.
When that same person's working 40 hours a week and they weren't
Mhm.
doing it before, and now they are, and they still gotta change the diapers, they still gotta make the dinner, the laundry,
Mhm.
all that stuff, and I think, boy, I'm making a case for guys to get their get their act together, aren't
Ah.
I? Anyway, but I guess what I'm hearing from you is a woman has an obligation to speak up
Mhm.
and say, "This is too much for me. I need your help," or "I need this," or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Is that what we're talking about here?
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that example that you gave of the friend who, after the first child, lost a desire for her husband, I feel like that is a like we talked earlier about the symptom or the signs of, and that is a symptom, like recognizing that, like getting curious, like why am I not interested in my husband anymore?
Yeah,
And like identifying, like, you know what? I'm so angry because since we had this baby, I'm up all night and then he's like leaves his dirty socks on the floor
yeah,
and then I'm exhausted and I'm picking up after him and it's like getting curious and recognizing what is happening or what
yeah,
happened, what changed after the baby, like what changed in the relationship and then how can you show up in a way to honor his autonomy, but say, hey, this is the way that I need you to be in this relationship,
Right.
and be so powerful in your own power by saying, hey, I'm unavailable for a man who does not pick up his underwear. That's it.
Yeah. No,
And
I
that's
hear
the
you.
power. And you know what? What I love about it is women are scared to do that, but men want to make their woman happy. They definitely want their
Right.
wives to desire them.
Right.
And if you can give him opportunities, he doesn't know how. If you can give him opportunities to show up for you and do things for you, that's going to make him happy. He wants to make you happy. He wants to provide and protect for you. That's a masculine man role. Like, that's going to
Right.
make him
Right.
feel good. That's going to make
Yeah.
him feel great.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good advice. Thank you. So, how does one find you? Ha
So they can find me on I do a lot on my Instagram. So they can find me at Lindsay, that's Lindsay, Stewart, Stewart, Jacobi, Jacobi, or at my website, it's glowupcollective.co. That's co.com.
Okay.
And they can find me there.
Yeah, okay, glowupcollective.co,
Yeah.
C-O.
Yep.
Okay.
Co.
Alright, and then you work with, I would say, primarily women and who feel that they're just overwhelmed and need help, or is it they're just overwhelmed and don't know what to do? I mean, that's a distinction right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Primarily I work with women who are super high functioning, so they're doing a lot in their lives and they feel like there's no space for them and
Yeah,
they don't know how. They don't
yeah,
know, they don't have the strategies, they don't have the tools, they don't have the support to create space for themselves. So I
yeah.
that's really who I work with.
Okay. Alright, well, I really appreciate this today. Yeah, Lindsay. I mean, I think this has been very helpful, and I hope our listeners tune in. I hope a lot of the guys pay attention to this and don't go, "Oh, this is just for a bunch of women." I think this, I mean, I think it's for both. I think that if you're in any kind of relation, no matter how you define the relationship,
Mhm.
I think that having those boundaries on both sides to be able to discuss things are very important. I can it's been 30 some years, but I can remember my wife coming to me saying, "Johnny, I just can't do all these things." And I said, "Okay, what do you need help with?" "Well, how about the bathroom and some of the laundry?" I said, "Yeah, I can do that." And and in today's world, I just do my own laundry, 'cause she doesn't want me messing with her laundry, I mean? So, I get it, but, I really, appreciate, Lindsay, that you stopped by today to share your thoughts and talk about what you do because it's an interesting career to be able to help people make major changes.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. And I hope that your listeners find this information to be stuff that they can start using right away in their lives and create transformation and live a more joyous life.
You have been listening to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. Subscribe to hear a new and unique guest each week as they comment on their life's journey and share experiences with lifestyle, culture, and career. You can always find us at minuteswithmango.com.